Hello everyone. Today we will be solving algebraic equations in the form of word problems. So let's look at our first word problem here that we have. This one. 3 more than a certain number is 10. What is the number? You're gonna see a certain number or some number a lot in algebraic expressions. And whenever you see these, a certain number or some number, this is hint that you should use a variable, most commonly x. So this means that you should use an x, a letter, because we don't know what this number is. It just says a certain number. We don't know what this number is. And whenever we don't know something, we just use a letter. We can't use a number here because we don't know what that number is. Now, another clue that we can find in this word problem is this word right here, more than. More means plus, right? More, if you have more pencils than someone, it means you're adding more quantity. You have more quantity, meaning that's related to adding, more than. So this means 3 more than a certain number. So remember I said to use x for the certain number. So if I have a certain number, x, and I add 3 to this, 3 more than a certain number is means equals 10. Okay, so this is the algebraic equivalent, or I should say an equivalent algebraic expression to this word problem. Okay, it says 3 more than a certain number is 10. This is what that means. 3 more than a certain number is 10. Now, you'll notice, why am I not doing 3 plus x, but I'm doing x plus 3, right? On the word problem, we have 3, we have the 3, and then we have more than for the plus, and then we have a certain number. So you would think that this would mean 3 plus x, 3 plus x. But whenever you see more than or less than, on the next problem we have less than, more than or less than, this kind of switches the number and the letter. 3 more than a certain number. It doesn't matter too much with addition, since doing 3 plus x and doing x plus 3 is the same thing. Same thing as doing 2 plus 3 and doing 3 plus 2 is the same thing. So it doesn't really matter for addition, but you'll need to be more careful with that when we're doing subtraction. So just know that when we have more than or less than, you have to switch the number and the letter. Okay, and once you start to understand this word problem more, you'll know why we're switching those. 3 more than a certain number is this, I guess it's just an English expression. When we say something more than something, we're adding the previous quantity to the quantity that follows. Okay, so 3 more than a certain number is 10, is this equation right here. And it's asking us, what is the number? What is the number? And by the number, it's asking for this number right here, for x. What is x? And we can just solve for x in this equation. X plus 3 equals 10. So you can do minus 3 on both sides. And the 3's will cancel here. So x is going to equal 10 minus 3, which is 7. So this would be our answer for this word problem. X equals 7. So once you can write the algebraic equation like this, then it's not that hard to solve. You can just simply solve for x. But deriving this algebraic equation is the biggest challenge with word problems. So let's look at the word problem underneath. 5 less than a certain number is 12. What is the number? So again, we have this word, a certain number here. Certain number, and again, that means to use a variable. So let's use x again. Less than, more than meant plus. Less than means minus, right? It makes sense, right? If you have less, it means you're subtracting quantities. And we have 5. And I've said before, it's not 5 minus x. When you have more than or less than, these places switch. So it's actually x minus 5. X minus 5. And this is 12. This equals 12. As it says in the word problem. Okay, so x minus 5 equals 12. What is the number? And you just solve for x here. You add 5 to both sides. So x equals 12 plus 5, which is 17. Okay, so that will be our answer. Now notice if our problem said a certain number plus 3 or is 10, what is the number? Then because this is not more than, you don't need to switch the number and the letter. So the certain number here means x. So you can just do x plus 3 equals 10 without having to switch the orders here. You only switch the order when you see more than or less than. Similarly, if you had a certain number minus, let's say 4 is 10, certain number minus 4 is 10, then you can just do x minus 4 equals 10. X minus 4 equals 10. You don't need to switch the order here because this is not less than. You only switch the order of the letter and the number when you see less than or more than. Okay, so I hope that I made that clear here. Let's move on to some other questions. 2 times a certain number is 8. Again, we see this word, a certain number. And this means use a variable, x. So 2 times x is 8. What is the number? And this is pretty straightforward. We just do 2 times, let's use a dot for multiplication, because we're using x for the variable. 2 times x, this is the certain number, is equal to 8. So this is our equation. 2 times x equals 8. What is the number? And to solve, you just divide both sides by 2. This side, the 2 will cancel. So x is going to equal 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Okay, let's look at the next one. It says a certain number divided by 3 is 7. So again, we're using x. When you see a certain number, we use a variable. We don't know what that number is. A certain number divided by 3 is 7. Okay, what is the number? And again, to solve for x here, we multiply by 3 on both sides. So x equals 7 times 3, which is 21. Okay, that would be our answer here.